Happy to be here. We're an investor in Perplexity, but we're going to try to keep it real and ask tough questions and have an authentic conversation. But happy to be here, Aravind, with you. Let's get some history and stats out of the way because Perplexity is probably you're probably very familiar with it. But let's just get some background out of the way. You grew up in India. You went to IIT Madras for undergrad, and then immigrated to the U.S., which is still in process. Good luck on your green card there.
Well, there's a gold card that's coming soon.
Yeah, as VCs like to say, it's pay to play. So $5 million. And then you got a PhD in computer science at UC Berkeley, which was seminal. Go Bears. And then you went into research roles at Google DeepMind and then OpenAI as a research scientist. So you had some early beginnings, kind of understanding the primitive generative AI models coming out of the two most important organizations of the time. Today, Perplexity is an answer engine for consumer search, general knowledge, learning, and also now enterprise answers. And then finally, 500 million queries per month. This is good for all the reporters because they want stats. 500 million queries per month. Every country, every region on the planet, you have users and thousands of enterprises today. All right, so we got that out of the way. So you've had a busy few weeks, a lot going on. Deep research, you launched, you loaded up DeepSeek on your servers, made it safe, took out the censorship, made it available to developers within a couple days. And now you're launching what we saw a little bit earlier on the video, which is deep research for enterprise.
Yeah.
Why are you shipping so fast? Like, what is the rush?
Do I have a choice? Like, this whole field is moving at a breathtaking pace, and I think the only way to like stay relevant right now is to ship at this pace. It is good and bad, right? Like bad because there's no hope to like have several hours of sleep and live a relaxed life. Good because you get to enjoy, like you get all these features at this pace and like there's constant iteration in the product. Whatever complaints people are flagging, whatever bugs people are flagging, they're being fixed day and night. And I think that's pretty fantastic because in a period of 5 years from now, like knowledge is just universally accessible. Research is commoditized. Marginal cost of research is really, really going down, and software programming is so much easier, building stuff is faster. So it's amazing in that aspect, like all the possibilities that come out of like, you know, products like these and competitor products that are also like constantly innovating to keep up. I think it's fantastic.
So we're at an interesting point right now with AI where we all agree that models are incredible, they're accruing tons of value, they're making a huge impact across every organization really on the planet. But with DeepSeek, it looks like there is even more high-value commoditization that's happening.
Yeah.
So how do you see these models playing out in competition? The benchmarks are obviously very important, and that's how they're sort of being scored.
Yeah.
But you're doing something different. You're thinking about the application layer historically, but what's Perplexity in your vision?
Yeah. So the model commoditization thing, I don't think everyone has truly internalized it yet. But like, let's take the words, like, you know, not just of me, but people who are putting like several tens of billions of dollars on this. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, I think he said in multiple interviews recently that that sort of a lead that they had with the GPT-4 model over the other models in the market is that period is over. Like we're no longer living in that period anymore where there was one model that was ahead of every other model in the market for at least a year, I believe, or a year and a half even. And at this point, like the lead is probably weeks. That's the and also like leads in different verticals. Like Anthropic's models are the best in coding. OpenAI's models are good in something else. Grok's good in something else. DeepSeek is better at something else. So I feel like the even the differences are kind of like getting more nuanced now, and everybody's hill climbing on the same benchmarks, addressing the blind spots that they have. Open source, whenever it comes out, what happens is the closed models are forced to react because their business is continually convincing investors to pour more money to help them build even bigger clusters to keep training even bigger models. So if you're not like staying ahead and everybody can just fine tune an open source model, it becomes like even more risky to continue like justifying the demand for raising $10 billion every time or $100 billion. So I think the DeepSeek moment was truly a revolutionary moment. Whether they spent only $6 million on training that model or not, which is up to debate, they definitely did not spend that order of magnitude of money. And they got a really amazing model that not just gives you a great output on par with the best closed models, but it can also give you the entire chain of thought, the transparent chain of thought. And in AI products, only two features really have helped build trust with the user. One is sources, citations, where the AI model is pulling the information from. Otherwise, you can't really know if what the AI model said to you is correct or not. What do you even do with the answer? And the second is the reasoning trace, completely transparent reasoning trace of how the AI model arrived at the answer. And we are the only product which actually does both of these to the user. And the reason closed labs don't give you the chain of thought is because that's their, they preserve their IP in the model, so they don't want to give it away for free. But open source does not have that constraint. Like DeepSeek doesn't need to preserve any IP. It just gave away the weights for free. And then you can take that and like customize it, address the blind spots, remove the censorship, make it even better on certain benchmarks like financial queries or whatever agents that you're trying to build, and don't have to spend that much, right? You can host it on any data center, or like there are a lot of model providers like Fireworks, and like they can just like help you bring it up quickly. And that forces the closed models companies to like lower the API costs or react with a better alternative. And as a model agnostic product, you end up winning because you're directly touching the user. And as long as you keep growing your user base and keep making your product better, keep adding new features at a rapid pace, keep addressing all the bugs, and like just give value to pretty much any knowledge worker in the world, you have a very good chance of winning.
I think another thing that is interesting too is, especially when it's not just for consumers but for enterprises, when they have sensitive proprietary data, and they want to be able to use that as a data source in their AI and LLM retrieval experience, it's really useful to have an abstraction between the model and the application layer, so that you can have trust, as you said, with a company like Perplexity. Now this can be part of the terms of service in ChatGPT or Claude, but the abstraction actually creates a definitive hard line between that. So whether you're a consumer or an enterprise user, I don't think anyone's asking, I want to particularly use this model. I think what people are complaining about is like, it doesn't connect to my Google or Microsoft data, or it doesn't actually like give me the outputs in the format I wanted. I actually want to like click on the file and like see it right there in a side viewer. I wanted to be able to like flag a ticket for me. I think that's the sort of things people want. They just want the best models to be made available to them, and honestly, they don't even want to worry about it. It's the product builder's concern, and so that's what like we have a unique ability to like roll the same product essentially to the consumer, the average consumer, understand which models are working really well on what type of things, and abstract it out and give it to the enterprise with all the security grade compliance that they require, with the connections to each of their data, right? And I think that sort of like thing has never happened before, because the search stack for consumer and the enterprise has been very different. The same kind of retrieval mechanisms for web search doesn't really work for internal search. But language models essentially have made possible to build this new thing called a research agent, right? It can go and ingest all these files at once and like extract the relevant paragraphs and reason about it, and then come back to you with an answer in whatever format you request it for, and ability to converse. I think that's unified both web search and internal search together. And so essentially it's just knowledge management, research and knowledge in one single platform, where
different data sets are there, different models are there, and they're all packaged in one unified experience. That's Perplexity.
Let's talk a little bit more about open source versus closed source, because I think this is arguably the most important theme right now.
Yeah.
When it comes to foundational models.
Yeah.
Right now in the political climate, open source models are a double-edged sword. We've got the benefit of open source is that anyone can download it, use the weights, fine-tune it, and then host it on US data centers, regardless of where it comes from. There's also the thinking that open source is dangerous if it falls into the wrong hands or if it's from an enemy country, things like that nature. And closed source model labs are lobbying against that, right? It's a typical government corporate kind of dynamic that we're seeing. What's your opinion on open source versus closed source in the long term? And obviously, how does Perplexity kind of orchestrate that? It's agnostic, but how do you orchestrate that over the long term? But then also, what do you think is best for society and competition?
Well, a lot of the technology that we use that power our phones, our laptops, our internet is built on open source software and protocols that have been developed by a lot of people working together. And we trust that, and our whole world runs using that. Linux, Android, they're all like open source projects. The internet is essentially like based on protocols that were built in open source, early open source days. And so, like if it's all about safety and trust, like open source is the only approach that's worked out. And so that should be the case even for AI. And I think Bill Gurley made this point, which I like to repeat, which is if something is really dangerous, you probably want more eyes on the ball, more eyes on it, right? Not fewer, because then it goes by what that group of people say, especially if that group of people are the ones lobbying for banning open source. Then it kind of becomes clear conflict of interest, especially when their business interests are aligned with like open source being banned, because that's what lets them raise more capital to build bigger data centers and charge more for the APIs. And the claims on safety concerns may not even be true. Even if it is true, it's better those models are out there and for us to verify ourselves, and like a lot more people get to have a say on it. And then if the wide consensus is that it's actually like pretty dangerous, then we should figure out a way to make sure like these things are developed in a safe way, right? Right now, the safety concerns are overhyped, and until we have any models that are super intelligent at the level of like a cluster of running or serving that model, or like a group of such models essentially becomes a national level threat, which is not the case today. The concerns on open source are not justified. And so I think I'm very pro open source for the moment, and I believe that it's going to make application layers flourish. There'll be a lot more companies that are able to serve these models in a sustainable way, build their businesses, deliver direct value to the user, monetize them effectively, and like create a lot of economic value. So that's amazing, and we are trying to do that, and I'm also seeing several other companies that are doing that. And in the next 5 years, I hope like there's a lot more AI native applications that deliver a lot of value to people in a model agnostic way.
If you're looking at 2023, early 2023, mid 2023, I remember using Perplexity. That's where we met, and people were saying, "Oh, this is a great AI wrapper."
Wrapper.
Okay. And it was sort of a denigrating way of saying, "Oh, it's all the value will accrue to the LLMs, and these are just wrappers." Over time, people still kind of think of the world as these are LLMs and these are products or applications, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's hardware or software. I know that you have a different opinion about Perplexity. How do you see Perplexity in that framework, or do you break that framework?
I mean, I think I've said this and got pretty viral. So everything's a wrapper at the end, right? Like there are some companies building their own models, but they don't have their own chips, they don't have their own data centers. Then only Google has their own chips and data centers and everything on their own. And then even the chips, like you're not fabricating it yourself, someone else is doing it for you. So everything is a wrapper at some level of abstraction. The point is like, can you deliver real value to the end user at scale and build a growing business? and stuff that you're building on top of, it kind of is becoming a commodity, then it's great. Like that's a fantastic moment to be in. And that's what's happening right now. Like the cost of intelligence is going down approximately 8x every year, 2x a quarter. That's or 2x every 4 months. That's the current estimate. Even if you assume like 5 to 8x a year, continues for another 2 years, we are in for like about 20 to 50x reduction in the cost. And so that means serving 50x more users at the same current price, and then building a business so that it lets you serve at even higher volumes. It's fantastic. And the other thing that I would say is once these models are really like contextualizing the user's data, essentially retrieving the right tools, the user's Google Drive, your Gmail, your travel information, your shopping information, from all sorts of social profiles and activity out there, the value lies more in like how all that data is being packaged to provide you the right assistance rather than the weights in the model. The models are just literally synthesizing that information and giving you the output in a certain format. So it's just a format transformer, nothing else. It's doing some reasoning, it's doing some chat, conversation, keeping context of everything, but the value is coming from all the context I have over you as a user or over you as an enterprise. And I think that's where like we want to like build our moats or like value in, and doing that at scale will make us a very valuable company.
Let's talk a little bit more about moats. So the world is changing fast. Every day there's a new release, a new model release.
Yeah.
There are agents in the future for the company.
Yeah.
After solving the knowledge problem and moving on to agents for actions.
Yeah.
There's different formats. There's iOS, Android, there's Windows, there's Mac.
Yeah.
How do you see this paradigm, this framework of different platforms, and you kind of have to choose one? How does Perplexity play across that?
Yeah, so I think right now every AI company exists or tries to exist on every platform out there. We have a Mac app, so do some others. I think Microsoft launched their own today. We're also going to be launching a Windows app. We are on the web. We are right there as a browser product too. And then we are on iOS. We are on Android as mobile apps. On Android, we're available as a native assistant also, so that you don't even have to open the app. And we announced that we'll be shipping a browser next month ourselves. So essentially, a browser is an operating system, right? You can do almost everything. Almost all knowledge work can be done on a browser. That was actually the concept behind Google launching Chrome OS on a Chromebook, where the OS is essentially the browser. So that means that like a lot of agents can be built with a lot of control over where like you pull data from if you have a browser. The only reason we're doing a browser is there's no other way to build an agent with enough control over like controlling many applications simultaneously. Especially on iOS, like you cannot even access another app. Like that's how the OS is being built. And so you don't want to be bottlenecked by like how Apple is building its ecosystem. You want to work around it, and a browser is a very good workaround in the short term for us. So we're going to be building agents that let you book stuff, buy stuff, like make travel plans, book hotels, kind of personalize to you which hotels you like staying in, what kind of rooms you prefer, whether you like a certain view, and essentially build like a personal assistant or an executive assistant for you. Now, you still have your human EA, definitely, right? It's not, but there are some people who cannot afford one, and this will be a great 80-20 for them. That's the idea. And people pay like their EAs, their personal EAs, like $100,000 to $200,000 a year. And so if that's being made available for 80% of the value at 10 to 100x lower price, that's a pretty good business to build. And we hope doing that will let us make our core answer engine product, this question answering machine that you have, as widely accessible and freely available as possible. So it's a long-term vision. It's not going to work this year. It's still like, anyone who's saying agents will work in 2025, you should be skeptical of it. But we are trying to figure out like at least what are the simple use cases that we can make work, like buying stuff without having to go and enter your credit card details everywhere, your shipping information everywhere. So all that kind of simple workflows, we're trying to like make it like abstract it out on Perplexity.
So when you think about the future, model labs today are starting to build products, right? They're realizing that like ChatGPT makes a lion's share of OpenAI's revenue. It's not from the developer API request revenue stream. Anthropic is focused very much on enterprise. Mistral, same thing. DeepSeek is really hoping for both an enterprise and a consumer future. They're raising tons of money. They have lots of compute. They're tied. It's a blessing or a curse. They're tied to their own models. How do you compete as a smaller company, as an upstart, against these giant model labs who raise, billions of dollars?
Well, I think it's more like where the money is being spent, right? They might have raised 10x or 100x more money, but are they spending 80% of it in like just building data centers? And do you even need that much? And that's what DeepSeek is making us all question, right? Maybe you can distill the largest of all models into smaller ones very effectively, and that's the model that'll end up getting served in production. And if that model is like open source or available at an affordable price on the APIs, even if the model labs don't want that, the hyperscalers want that, because hyperscalers are all about economies of scale. So they would love to take something very affordable, very low pricing. In fact, DeepSeek's already been made available on AWS and Azure at literally zero marginal cost. You only have to pay for the server. So and you could imagine the same kind of model size, like that'll be something way smarter next year. So all that's essentially $0 for the actual AI cost. And so when the incentive is clear for the hyperscalers to make like a widely accessible model affordable, then you don't really have to worry. So whatever capital you raise as an application company, you can actually choose to spend it on like building a better product, hiring great people who can come in like build like the next versions, next features that are on the cutting edge, and doing stuff that we do. Like obviously, like some people make fun of it, they're just giving away their Pro for free. It's just a strategy similar to what Google did of paying for the user, where Google used to pay other websites a certain cents for every query someone did on the Google like search box on their site. You're just paying for queries. So we're doing something similar, except we are incurring COGS rather than paying an explicit CAC. So I think like that's gonna work out well if these models keep getting cheaper, because our cost of operating our Pro queries will also go down. And by the time we accumulate a big enough user base and get users habituated to using our product and keep collecting all that data and making our product better and personalizing more to the user's context, I believe that like we'll be in a very good spot to be able to switch over to different models, plus train our own models on top of open source too, which we are doing. We have a model called Sonar. We're offering it in the form of our APIs too, and we have search grounding. Because we explicitly focused on search grounding, we're able to do it at a much cheaper price than other companies that try to integrate with web search. They have to pay much higher API prices to Bing and other data providers.
That's right. All right, so everyone's used Perplexity probably in this room. How do you use Perplexity?
I mean, like all sorts of things. I was literally like, I mean, if you want me to read out my history, I can do it, but like, I use it a lot for understanding concepts that I don't know anything about. I'm running this company, but I have literally zero experience in like, being a manager or like a leader. And so, yeah, I'm not lying. I'm not being humble, by the way. And so you can just have literally like the investment memo I write for like any funding round we do, I write it using Perplexity. And this is not like set in to hype my own product. I really use it. Collecting benchmarks of what other companies, how much revenue they had at every stage of their cycle. Or like, for example, DeepSeek, the paper itself. I used to be a researcher, but now that I've not hardly written any code in the last year and a half, I'm kind of out of touch with the details. So when it came out, I uploaded the paper and asked a lot of questions about it, where I could pull up stuff from the web and the paper and read it together. So it was a great knowledge assistant for me. I use it to like make sense of like our metrics. I upload it and ask questions about like what can I do to like which graph is actually like not very concerning right now. All sorts of things. So it's very much a part of my life. It's hard to live without it.
All right. So you're a power user of your own product. Great.
Yeah.
What's the one feature request that you have that's not in the product and that pains you?
Well, I would love for it to have all my context, right? The Perplexity right now is a user-agnostic product. It doesn't work differently for you than someone else, which is nice as far as like giving truthful, unbiased answers goes. That's great. But the next step is honestly, can it answer questions about your flights, your upcoming travel, your meetings, ahead of time, pull up bios of who we are meeting for, stuff that you have to say during the meeting, your notes. Like it needs to have more context to be even more useful as an assistant. That requires us to integrate with like you saw like Google Drive. By the way, consumer Google integration is way harder than the enterprise because of what the Google requires in their APIs. So we're working around that. But all that stuff is essential, and being able to do tasks for you. That's the other thing that I would love for Perplexity to do, so that like I can be, I don't need to always keep checking Google Maps and call the restaurant or like have my EA do it for me. All that stuff is like time consuming, and I would love for AIs to help us there.
So long-term memory, personalization, and a robust task agent that actually works. Okay.
All the buzzwords, but we have to make it work. That's the hard part. So we'll work hard on that.
That's great. Well, our time is up. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is great. Thank you.